nation. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom.
Some of them crying out for freedom.
Fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare, side by side we stand, highlands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Almighty God, most beneficial and merciful, Creator of the universe and embodiment of divine wisdom and light, we come before you with thanksgiving and praise. May your will be done in our nation as it is in the heavens. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace to always see good, be good, and do good, and the courage to serve the people. Protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity, and inspire our endeavors to find the right solutions to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens. Grant that we may always work together with humility and respect for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country.
Saving the country for your children and yourself. I am Nicholas Morris, your International Relations Officer, co-chair with your counselor, Nadia Khan Mohammed. Let us welcome Nadia Khan Mohammed.
Thank you, Nick. Leader of the opposition, my political leader, your political leader, and the first female Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Member of Parliament for Pointe-a-Pierre, Chief Whip, and my MP, Dr. David Lee, all other distinguished members of Parliament, senators, chairmen, mayors, members of council, people, the special people here tonight, my UNC family, good night. Welcome to my electoral district of Claxton Bay, Pointe-a-Pierre, and by extension, Pointe-a-Pierre, the constituency of Pointe-a-Pierre. I want to hear Pointe-a-Pierre family welcome you all tonight. Come on, let's give the audience a Pointe-a-Pierre welcome. Today, our country has undergone many changes. whilst under this PNM administration sits in office. Thank you. Lately, the negatives outweigh the positive in a large way. There are major issues we face stemming in a number of fields: national security, environmental issues, infrastructure, health, medical fields, and political. Tonight we have a bumper of speakers, dynamic speakers, who are going to give you the facts of the changes under this PNM-led regime. Our first speaker is a well-accomplished attorney at law and very active in charities, advocacy, and overall empowerment in our country, whether being animal rescues, women's rights, helping the homeless, and those in need. She currently works with an NGO that focuses on many of the aspects mentioned, and she helps counselors on initiatives to help those in need. Without further delay, let us welcome the Honorable Senator Jayanti Lakshmidiyam, a fiery woman speaker.
Sing this song for bread, peace, and justice. Sing this song for bread, peace, and justice. Sing this song for justice, peace, and bread.
Good night, my UNC family, honorable political leader, members of parliament, fellow senators, UNC faithful. We are here tonight in the wonderful constituency of Pointe-a-Pierre, back in our communities across Trinidad and Tobago. Because of the COVID threat, we could not have mass political meetings, but gradually we are having events and meetings where we can see and feel and interact with you the way we used to before.
Constituency Executive and the Member of Parliament staff for Pointe-a-Pierre, his hard-working staff and team. Let us hear it for them for putting together the setup for tonight's meeting. I want to say thank you to the Legends TASA Group for their warm welcome here tonight. And last but not least, I want to wish a happy birthday to our counselor, to my counselor colleague, and our very vociferous UNC brother, Mr. Dudnat Meru. Happy birthday, sir. Thank you for spending your birthday today with us. UNC family, criminal activity is a serious problem in Trinidad and Tobago where we stand, with a high murder rate along with a blatant rise in many or all criminal activities. Our murder toll is currently sitting over 120, along with illegal guns, drugs, and gang activities on the rise. There is no end or reduction in our sight. Our next speaker is a fighter for a safer nation. He holds a master's degree in journalism as well as a bachelor's degree in journalism and geography, all from Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada. He served as Trinidad and Tobago's ambassador to the United Nations. With all introductions, let us welcome the Honorable Rodney Charles, Member of Parliament for Naparima.
Before coming on the stage, my leader gave me some instructions. When Rowley goes low, she says, you go high. Don't go in the gutter with Keith Christopher Rowley. So today, we turn to the scriptures. And I want Dr. Rowley and his P&M cohorts who are listening, I want to refer them to Matthew chapter 13. I want you to read with me, please. Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherein shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing. Scripture. But to be cast out and to be trodden under the foot of men. Ladies and gentlemen, here ended the lesson from the Holy Scriptures. Brothers and sisters, Trinidad and Tobago was once the salt of the earth. Somewhere along the line, and especially under Keith Christopher Rowley, our country has lost its savor. Somewhere along the line, we are in difficulty. It has lost its savor when it builds with funds from God knows where a humongous palatial Babylonian edifice called Balize House. When the mass of us citizens are catching our nenen and trying to survive. Our beloved Trinidad and Tobago has lost its savor when its government stands accused of consorting with human traffickers, jovially celebrating friendships, and maybe using these links to finance Balize House. The P&M under Rowley is thenceforth good for nothing and must be cast out and be trodden under the foot of men. Thus reads the scripture. Brothers and sisters, Balize House shall forever live in infamy as the preeminent symbol of all that is wrong with Trinidad and Tobago today. Symbol of corruption. Correct. Balize House is a living testimony to P&M opulence and extravagance. Whether it be contractors paid inflated sums with surpluses being channeled into constructing Balize House, whether it is unscrupulous businessmen hoping to feed off the P&M trough, whether it is unsavory white-collar criminals laundering their ill-gotten gains. Ladies and gentlemen, Balize House shall live forever in infamy in Trinidad and Tobago, and all those associated with it shall be called to account one day. Whether it be political investors hoping to eat a food from the band of miscreants running our country, whether it be individuals who have profited from the pervasive, uncontrolled, ill-gotten gains of human trafficking and pedophilia, we will never know. If you ask a question to our Honorable Prime Minister, he will rather insult you than answer your question. And don't expect any questions or comments whatsoever from Archbishop Gordon or members of the IRO. They are sleeping on the job, awakened from time to time to blame the citizenry for the failings of a P&M administration that has lost its savor. Let's go to Balize House. Dr. Rowley would have us believe that he and Fitzgerald Ethelbert Hines sold raffle tickets to raise 50 to 100 million for Balize House. Let's work it out. At $100 per ticket, Keith Rowley and Fitzgerald Hines will have to sell 500,000 plus tickets in these Gova season, in these hard times, to raise that kind of money. We know the maths is simply not mathsing. So where did Babylon get the required $50 to $100 million. I have to go to the Rastas, Mr. Awang. I have to go to Jah. Where did Babylon get the money, $100 million, to buy that symbol of opulence and decadence in Trinidad and Tobago? And which financiers donated the 10 cars allegedly raffled? Who are they? Did Mr. X, relaxing with Keith Christopher Rowley on an expensive love seat, buy any tickets? Balize House will be a monumental symbol of national shame. Anybody who drives in front of Balize House must know that they are driving in front a symbol, a Babylonian symbol of shame and disgrace. And you know what? The UNC will tie that Babylonian symbol of shame squarely around the necks of Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley and the wicked band of the PNM. So we want the list of donors. We demand Keith Christopher Rowley tell us who paid for Balize House. And we call on the FIU, that's the Financial Intelligence Unit. We call on the Counter Trafficking Unit. And yes, we call on the Commissioner of Police to simply call in Dr. Rowley and get the accounts, because there is something rotten in the state of Trinidad and Tobago and in Balize House. Explain the wealth. The country is depending on these bodies to act fearlessly and without favor. And I ask the question, are all these three institutions scared to call in Dr. Rowley and say, hello, how did you get the money to pay for Balize House? When I and the UNC had the effrontery to produce a picture of Rowley in close company with a man whose business was allegedly raided multiple times, and news reports, and there were news reports that female minors were detained there together with dozens of undocumented Spanish-speaking nationals, Rowley went berserk. He went completely out of control. I know not the man in the picture. Rowley is quoted as saying in the Trinidad Guardian report. So will the CTU, Counter Trafficking Unit, the FIU and the COP have the courage to even ask Dr. Rowley about the relationship with that man? They must also ask Camille Robinson Regis to explain the $143,000 which she allegedly attempted to deposit in a local bank. You see why we ask the question? It's because they come on the stage and say, we in the PNM are held to a higher standard. And I say, higher standard what? If the police are scared to call you in and ask you questions which they will ask to any citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. So the so-called independent oversight institutions have all been emasculated, seduced, compromised, or bullied into submission. You see, brothers and sisters, what Rowley does not recognize is that one of my unforgivable sins, let me repeat, one of my unforgivable sins was once being a senior member of the PNM cult. I am still paying penance for that egregious sin. I feel most ashamed tonight to say that I was once a member of that decrepit institution. I prayed to God for eternal forgiveness for that transgression of my youth. So I know the PNM way of doing things. That is why I left. I couldn't stomach the nastiness that was in the bowels of the People's National Movement. The political leader has alluded to it. But I want Trinidad and Tobago to know, I want Dr. Lee to know. So when he gets his $100 million in the year 2059, he will come in the grave in Fifth Company and give him a $2 million. Because one of the tricks of the PNM is to make reckless charges against opponents, get them arrested, and leave them with a cloud hanging over their heads for decades. They do not care if they have to pay millions for wrongful arrest decades later. The damage has been done. They nasty your name, and you are walking with a cloud, and the PNM understands that. Take it from me. I was there. I know that is the playbook. They even plan to win elections with people's name on a cloud. In any event, the money it paid does not come out of their own pockets. But you know the wickedness? We have to pay for the wickedness of the PNM in putting people's name, destroying people's name in Trinidad and Tobago. That is why I left the PNM. God forgive me. I have sinned and come short of the glory of God, and I will never be a PNM again. One second. I also know that there is no way that a sitting prime minister, PNM prime minister, would end up in a very enamored discussions with an alleged human trafficker unless he's a tried and tested member of the Cosa Nostra. No way! Special branch would visit the place. I was there. I know how it does go. Special branch would visit the place 2 to 3 days before to ensure that the premises were safe. They will get a list of all the proposed attendees, screen that list, and make comments to protect the Prime Minister. I know how these things does work. So if an alleged human trafficker were there sitting with my Prime Minister, talking intimately and taking pictures, then he must be screened, he must be vetted, he must be approved, and maybe anointed. He is part of the inner sanctum of the PNM. He could even be a financier. I know. That is how the thing does go. No ordinary member. Let me tell you, when I'm in the PNM and they have a meeting and meeting after, they send a list of the big boys. As a big boy. So we're meeting at X place. And all the little women who giving a little penny and dollar type of them job is not to attend that function. Their job is not to hobnob with the hierarchy. Their job is to keep quiet, vote PNM, and dance 1 step, 2 step, balise. That is their work. That is their work. While the big boys eat, and they dine, and they wine, and etc. So I ask tonight, and it is a simple and fair question. Do we have a situation where proceeds of human trafficking may have ended up wittingly or unwittingly funding Balize House? We again demand the list of all donors. We have a right to know because it is our money that the government going to give them contracts from. So tonight I want to warn all PNM family, friends, financiers, that what is hidden in the night shall be revealed in daylight. And if you give large donations and your company name ends up receiving large government contracts, then as sure as night follows day, you will be called to account when Kamla Persad Bissessa becomes Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. You see why we have to go to the scriptures. There is going to be a day of reckoning. And you know what is sad? Is that come July this year, Trinidad will most likely remain at tier 2 level on the US trafficking in persons report. And the reason is simple. No one will have been convicted for human trafficking this year. And that is the main reason why we remain on an EU blacklist. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad is in trouble, you know. They lied to us. And that if we supported 4 pieces of legislation, we would come off the list. Our leader had instructed us, support all pieces of legislation that will get us off the list. We supported all 4. I have the list here, but I wouldn't call them. But you know why we will remain on the EU watch list, even though we have passed the legislation? Because this government, Keith Rowley, is too lazy, incompetent, and dunce head to put legislation into action. They simply cannot perform. Simply cannot perform. They cannot jail anyone because, as Sister Jayanti, Senator, said, they deliberately under-resource the TTPS, the judiciary, and the DPP's office. I want to put up a clipping of the Danish minister. EU, if you could read this, if you could make it bigger. EU trade minister from Denmark. He's talking about Trinidad and Tobago. He says, in addition to the 2 new initiatives, a legal basis has been created to terminate the double taxation agreement with Trinidad and Tobago. This is because the country has for several years been on the EU blacklist of tax havens and not made an effort to change. Ladies and gentlemen, not Rodney Charles saying that, is not the UNC, is a big man in an EU capital, a minister in Denmark, saying that we have not done enough. But Rowley come to talk about it. I got instructions not to go there, so I'm not going there. This is let me see the date. This would have been 2021. MENA report published. April 22, 2021. 2 years ago, we won Trinidad and Tobago. I raised it in Parliament. I sent it to the media 5 times. The media sent back and tell me, one media house told me, Charles, send the proof. I send the proof, and they still don't cover it. So I asked the question today, are the media in Trinidad and Tobago complicit with Rowley regime in not highlighting our impending financial crisis arising from the EU blacklisting? Are the leaders of the media part of the Cosa Nostra? I could leave. Trinidad and Tobago is not a real place. It could be paradise, but we have to first get rid of the PNM. We used to be the envy of the Caribbean and even developed countries in the hemisphere. Under Kamla Persad Bissessa, we punched above our weight in the global arena. I could go on and on. But I will tell you this year, we will be President of the General Assembly, Trinidad and Tobago. And that started in 2013 when Kamla Persad Bissessa instructed me to ensure that we raise our profile at the United Nations. This year, we will be President of the General Assembly under her. So who do we depend on in this country? Not the IRO, not our Calypsonians, not the Fourth Estate, not the TTPS, not the FIU, not the CTU, not our trade unions, not the parliament, over which the executive has de facto control. So I want to say to my Rastafari friends, and I'm a ballhead, so I'll be closing shortly, to my Rastafari friends. I want to say, yes, Rowley has taken us down Babylon Road. And by the rivers of Babylon, where we sit down tonight and we are weeping when we remember how great we were under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, when we remember Zion. But the wicked PNM carried us away captivity, requiring from us a song. How can we sing King Alpha's song in a strange PNM land? Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Point up here, give some love for Rodney Charles tonight. Rodney Charles has done more for national security and foreign affairs than Keith Rowley in 7 years. Brothers and sisters, I want to tell you, the only reason they attack us is because they have no plans, they have no vision. But tonight I want to tell them, the UNC is not a party of fake emails. The UNC is a party of achievements. The UNC has a booklet of achievements over the last our term in government. Your leader, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and the UNC is a party of jobs. She created 60,000 jobs for you. It is right here. She ensured the highest amount of foreign direct investment. It is right here. Kamla Prasad Bisesa carried inflation to single figures. Brothers and sisters, they can attack Rodney just because Rowley not good looking like Rodney. They can attack Rowley because Rowley not bright like Rodney. But I'll tell you something, they will attack us because they cannot beat Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Brothers and sisters, the next speaker, I can't get this wrong because if I get this wrong, I can't go in the office tomorrow. Brothers and sisters, the next speaker is the Chinese dragon. He's a fighter for you. He has been the chairman of the UNC in 2015. He now serves as your deputy political leader and he's your fiery chief whip. Point up here, welcome the Honorable Dr. David Lee.
Thank you, Nicholas. I think you'll come to work tomorrow. Good night to my political leader, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa. But before I start, I would like to welcome my UNC family here tonight and our next Prime Minister and the leader of our great party in waiting, the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, to our great constituency of Pointe-à-Pierre. I also, before I continue, I'd like to say happy birthday to Councillor Meru. He's 64 years today and he's spending it with us here, right here in Pointe-à-Pierre. Thank you, Councillor Meru. They say confession is good for the soul. So I listened to Rodney Charles last night and he confessed. I will tell you, I don't ever want to be a PNM member. I was never one and I will never be one. So confession is good for your soul, Rodney. Thank you for coming out of that wicked party. Tonight the people of Pointe-à-Pierre have come out in your hundreds here to reject and rebuke the betrayals of this government, which has hurt this constituency and our country for the last 8 years. Deceit, lies, neglect, heartless leadership, and reckless governance has been the trademark of this Rowley government for the last 8 years on our country. As a country, you have to make a decision. Do you want Kamla's record of development and delivery, or you want PNM and Rowley lies and deceit? We must ask ourselves. We had great leadership under the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and she will do it again when she returns as our Prime Minister of our country. Every time this government is under pressure, every time they are unable to answer serious allegations or questions, what do? They call a public PNM meeting in Barataria and they spread bacchanal and untruths like what they did last Thursday. They call a meeting to fill the national discussion with lies, hoping you would be distracted from rising murders, rising inflation, rising corruption, and rising unemployment. But do not be distracted, my brothers and sisters. Last Thursday, Rowley spent an hour talking, and up to now, not a single plan, not a single way to protect you, and not a single improvement in your life. That is a government that lacks essence, substance, and vision. It is ridiculous that Rowley had the audacity to lecture us in the UNC about standards of who we put in Parliament. And yet he has a set of clowns in his government. The people of Pointe-a-Pierre will never forget the Petrotrin deceit when Rowley came to Marabella in August 2018 and said we're not closing down the refinery. What happened? A couple months later, he shut it down and sent home 5,000 people. We must never forgive him for that. And he also destroyed the retirees' medical plan in Petrotrin, and today they are suffering. If the UNC was in power, we would never have a Minister of Energy like Stuart Young, who continues to preside over the lowest oil and gas production in our country. Rowley wants to lecture us about standards. The way that man got on in Barataria on Thursday, he should have been run out of this country after that meeting in Barataria. The true standard of the PNM is that they continue to run from Parliament and run from the opposition in Parliament. The Prime Minister on Thursday made a big issue about the opposition, asking him questions about dragon gas and Petrotrin. They say they have a man always asking him questions. That man is me. That man is me. And I will continue to ask him questions about the dragon gas deal and Petrotrin. Who should I ask? Who should I ask? Not the Prime Minister. I think he's suffering from long COVID. I think his brain's fogged up and he forgets he's the Prime Minister. I want to tell the Prime Minister, we in the UNC will continue to ask you the hard questions. We'll ask you about the dragon gas deal with Maduro and how you're whining back with Stuart Young in Venezuela. We'll ask you that. We'll ask you that. And we'll continue to ask you, when will we receive gas from dragon gas? He does not know. He does not have a clue. But when we ask him the hard questions, he gets offensive and he starts to call names. He calls us all kind of names. I know you want to call me a name, you know, but the shiny dragon will always beat him. They'll always beat him. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to tell Rowley, I can't call him the Prime Minister, make up your mind on the refinery. Last month, he offered the refinery to Guyana. What did the Guyana do? Guyana run him out of the country. The next day, he jumped on a plane, American Airlines. The people in America didn't even know who the Prime Minister was. They had to call him back and say, show me your passport. That's to tell the level of this man that CARICOM has no respect for him. Every year, he changes the tune about the refinery. Never forget in 2020, this is the same government that promised to transform OWTU from workers to owners of the refinery. For years, you know, he gone down Guyana and Guyana run him. You know, Rodney is always asked him in Parliament about Guyana and Barbados. He gets in a tizzy when Rodney asks him about the standard of Barbados and Guyana. He told Rodney, go and live in Guyana. But he gone down Guyana to sell the refinery. That makes sense? That is why now we have our standard of living. We depend on our energy sector. And this PNM government has destroyed our energy sector. And that is why I want to ask the Minister of Finance, Imbud, face reality, face the facts, and stop carrying our citizens down a road of false hope as it relates to energy prices. A few months ago, the Minister of Finance, Imbud, was boasting about a budget surplus. The minister was boasting about higher than expected revenues. He told us that the economy is in a good place, in a good place. Ladies and gentlemen, just this week, Imbud says in the papers, Imbud admits things are not rosy as it was in 2022. Now, between Rowley and Imbud, they sound like they have a diarrhea. They don't know if they could do their thing before they could reach the toilet. You know, they could never understand if the country is in a good place or in a bad place. They sell lies and dreams to the population. So, because in January this year, on January 1st, The Prime Minister assures the country brighter days for Trinidad and Tobago in 2023. And then this week, you hear Imbert saying, admits things are not as rosy as in 2022. So they have done nothing in our energy sector. They have created and decimated our energy sector, and they play our populations as fools, because that is why they get in a tizzy when the opposition, we ask them the hard questions in our energy sector. Ladies and gentlemen, today, just before I came, the price of gas in the international markets is $2.63. Imbert based his budget on gas at $6. So we are $2.63 today, and he based his budget on $6. The price of oil today is $74.69. Imbert has based his budget on a figure of $92.50. And when Senator Mark asked him about these falling energy prices, Imbert come and talk about, well, we have a basket. I want to ask Imbert, you could use how much basket formula to calculate gas prices, from closed basket to picnic basket. The reality is oil and gas prices are falling internationally. The reality is you pegged your revenue figures on high energy prices, which you know was never going to remain in 2023. So once again, Imbert and Rowley is fooling the population. And in a few weeks' time, they will have to come back.
UNC family. UNC family. What a pleasure it is to join all of you here. And to those who are with us online, I want to thank them as well. So good evening. Good to be back out in person. And we intend to continue these meetings each week. I'm happy to see so many of our MPs here. Can we give them a round of applause? Our senators, our councillors, and of course, the activists from the communities. I want to commend MP Lee and his team for hosting us this evening at this meeting. Previous speakers, we thank them, we commend them. Well, Rodney, tonight you're real preach. Give Rodney a round of applause. And whilst you were sitting there, I told David Lee, who is a Catholic, a good Catholic, confession is good for the soul. And that's what Rodney was, you know, confessing and begging for forgiveness and repenting. So, Rodney, anyone else like you there? Bring them in. The UNC welcomes every single person into the house of the rising sun. Well, you can't stop naked, eh, Senator Naked? Some of his words I will never say. And I don't think he wants me to say them because he does a great job saying it all by himself. So thank you, Senator. And let me thank Senator Jayanti for raising those issues with respect to the whole administration of justice. Everybody in this country knows that it is collapsing. And we have a Prime Minister who appears to be, yes, totally out in space. Everything he says is not his responsibility. Whether it is school violence, whatever it is not the government's responsibility. But then whose responsibility are these issues? Whose? Do we expect somebody to come from Venus or Mars? Why do we elect a government? You elect a government, one of the key roles of any elected government is, first of all, to keep you safe. In days of old, when you didn't have the modern democratic state, what happened? You had the feudal lords, you had the fellas with the guns, you had the fellas before that with the swords, and everybody had their own little castle, their own little estate. That was the days of old. In Trinidad, we didn't have that. What we had were the plantations, where our forefathers came with us, indentured our slaves, and had to labor in those fields on the plantations. So they took care of those things. But in a modern democratic state, what happens is that the state has taken over. The government is there for the administration of justice and to keep you safe. So prime function of a government is safety and security first. The other things will come after, jobs and roads and schools. But first, you have to be alive. You must be alive. And this government has totally failed in its prime duty. And I will come back to that in a moment. So, speakers before, Senator Janti, I said, who raised these issues for us. And of course, your own MP Lee, every time he speaks, he becomes a little bit stronger and a lot more like a warrior and a fighter for the UNC. We thank him very much. So, as we are in Pointe-a-Pierre, I really want to hail out and pay tribute to one of our stalwarts. And I don't know if they can put up his photo on the screen. Mr. Murad Ali, who has been a lifelong member of the executive Pointe-a-Pierre. And I see many of you know him, but he passed away, so our condolences to his family. There is Mr. Ali. Let us pay tribute to him, please, and thank him for his service to our great party. And how can I not say happy birthday to Councillor Miru? Let's hail him out as well. Miru is a fellow who is on every radio talk show. Fighting for you and fighting for Trinidad and Tobago. Councillor, happy birthday and many more to come. There's so much to talk about every time we come here, but you know, time is time. So I'll just reduce to some of the issues I would like to raise. And the first is, it is good to talk about the ills of this government, the incompetence, the corruption. It's good about that. But we must also be able to talk about what is our vision. So yes, we'll come and point out the evils and the ills, but we must also talk about what is our vision. What it is we want to see for this great country. And I was very interested to see when Roddy put up the scripture, the text from Matthew on the screen, saying, ye are the salt of the earth. And he was saying Trinidad and Tobago is the salt of the earth. I intended to talk a little about that, not in those biblical terms, but it was the same concept of Trinidad and Tobago having been a spotlight, a highlight, a great place Trinidad and Tobago was before this Rowley regime took over. So as Rodney put it, we are no longer the salt of the earth. And what does it mean? Rowley must get out, he must go, and he must go now. I want us to be a strong country again. I want us to be there with a common purpose, with common ideals that we cherish and we live up to. We must not rest back on past glories, you know, fighting old battles, sitting back, hand on your mouth, concealing a yawn of cynicism. We must have cynicism. We must not be doing that. We must be ready for the day's challenges, ambitions, idealistic, united, where people succeed based on what they do for the upliftment of themselves and our country, rather than what they take from our country. This is the Trinidad and Tobago we must go back to. This is what we must work to build. And so we want to see and we must see, and we will make it happen when we form the government. There must be a paradigm shift of a new relationship between the public, private sectors and measures to encourage long-term investments. There must be that marriage, that partnership. We don't have that happening. Everybody's operating in a silo. And where is the country going? When you're divided, you fall. And that's where we are heading. More important, we have been submitted plans to you since 2018 to equip our people and enterprises for new technical and economic challenges, thereby altering our nation's mentality. We've been doing it time and time again from these platforms, in our meetings and in the parliament. We've been sharing those plans to lift and build our great country. And that is what we use these meetings for, in addition to others. We answer the attacks, but we also use them to inform about current events, to bring comfort and encouragement to the population, to put forward plans, policies, programs, ideas to improve lives and livelihoods. And I want you to compare and contrast that with the platform of the other party. With the platform of the other party. Mr. Rowley spoke for almost 2 hours on Thursday. Agreed? Almost 2 hours, almost. And in that time, not one single plan, program, or policy. He took the time to do something else. He has no plans, that's what we keep saying. So not one plan, not one policy man, you're Prime Minister. You haven't spoken to the nation, I don't know when last went, because it seems every time something important comes up, you contract COVID again. So sorry for you, may the good Lord help you. And you come out there for 2 hours, and not him, all of them on that platform, ministers of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and not one plan, not one policy, not one strategy, nothing to tell the population, look, we have achieved this, and now we are working to achieve that. Nothing, nothing whatsoever. And here we go. I don't know if he's still waiting on the Bill Gates fake money. You all remember that? But he has no plans. Oh, by the way, there's another lie. The Prime Minister told this country, it is reported in the print press, that he had reported to the police that Bill Gates, the scam about Bill Gates and the money. Along comes Stuart Young. He said, no, the Prime Minister never reported it. Which do you believe? They are a government of lies. We say believe nothing. And I'll tell you something, I have a little team who listens to these PNM platform meetings. I really can't bear to sit and listen to that. I mean, hours and hours. So we have a little team and they send me a transcript. I'm so sorry for that team, because they said last Thursday's meeting, it was like a comedy fest. It was hilarious. The man screamed, he shouted, all he didn't do was sing, but he tried to dance too. That's what they told me. They said it was totally hilarious. And this is the Prime Minister of the country, not one plan, not one policy, not one program, no strategy to better the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And you call yourself man, Prime Minister? That is why we say you have to go, and you have to go now. Dr. Rowley, you have to go now. Look at where we are. Crime at an all-time high. Murders, home invasions, robberies, rape, double and triple murders, joblessness, homelessness, high fuel and food prices, school violence, crumbling infrastructure, forex shortages, high utility bills, business bankruptcies, so much more happening in this country in a negative way, and nothing of sense or substance that you could say. He addressed none of these issues. What did he do? Spewing anger and hate at everyone he feels is opposed to him. And then they act surprised. They're surprised by the unprecedented levels of crime, unprecedented school violence, when Rowley himself is the one who was crying and weeping. I think Nakit spoke about it, about respecting the office of the Prime Minister. The office deserves respect. Of course the office deserves respect, but certainly the man holding that office does not deserve respect. Because this is a Prime Minister, he goes to the most vile, disrespectful behavior, man, on that platform. That's true, MP. MP said he has no respect for himself. And there he is for the whole world to see and hear. You remember when he told MP Munilal in the parliament Meet me on the pavement. You all remember that? Meet me on the pavement. That's what he told them. Well, today, the school children are meeting each other on the pavement. Where did they get that from? Where are you getting, really creating that kind of behavior? No respect for anybody, only bullying a person of no self-respect. And you asking for respect, sir? No way. Raging bull, wajang. Yes, those are the words that people closest to him described him as. Now, I know we throw pecan sometimes too, yes? Pecan is good, especially in Trinidad. People like pecan. They like the humor, they like the jokes, yes. But there is a difference. There is a difference between throwing pecan and the disrespectful of Keith Christopher Rowley. I have no problem with receiving and giving pecan jokes, right? But do not resort to that crass behavior, man, on a platform where the whole world can see you and hear you. Crass and hateful behavior. He saw on Thursday a small P&M crowd, including his government minister, and they giggling and cackling and whatever about his comments. And he felt so good about himself. So what did he do? Descend down into the rabbit hole, into the gutter, to attack a brave, brilliant human being with a good soul, MP Rodney Charles, in the most vile manner. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I told Rodney, don't do it, because they want to race bait us. I'm not getting there. The more important issue is why he did not answer the questions that Rodney was asking. That is the issue. That is the issue. I told Rodney, remember, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt you. And so all that nasty comment about MP Charles, really, I mean, what's that about? Distracting from the real important issues about where they're getting the money to build Balije House. That is the question, answer it. How can they account for $100 million? I think, Rodney, you work out the maths about how many raffle tickets to be sold, 500,000 raffle tickets. At least we know they can account for, all now that they could give an account for is, guess what? The air conditioning for Balije House. At least they could account for that, because I think somebody get a seat somewhere for the payment of the air conditioner. But where did this $100 million come from? Where are you getting that? You remember Karen Nunez Teixeira? She's a PNM, good lady, PNM. And when she was campaigning last year, she told us, she said they don't want her inside, because one of the questions she will be asking is where they're getting the millions from to fund Balije House. Remember that? So even in their own camp, the questions are being raised. And so where is it coming from? Is it from corruption and giving out state contracts? Is it from drug trafficking, for the drug trafficking mafia? Is it from human trafficking? Is it from the sale of seats and board appointments? Where is it coming from? Rodney made a point, and I want to repeat it. You must explain your wealth. Remember, you all come in the parliament, busy Faris passing law in the parliament. God, we're like PNM come down from heaven. Passing this, explain your wealth. Well, today, Faris, when you were passing that law, you must know it will obtain, it applies to you, me, and everybody, not just UNC people. Because that is what he was doing it, you know, his sly smile and so on. Oh, it's UNC. Well, today I call on the PNM to explain your wealth with respect to the construction of Balije House. All of it. They must answer. They cannot stay silent. You know, when they make accusations against the UNC, we call for investigations. Emailgate, I'll come back to that. The same day that man read those fake emails in the parliament, I wrote a letter on the same day to the Commissioner of Police for a full investigation. I'll come back to that in a moment. So when allegations are made, you have to do an investigation. Rodney called for the various units of the state, FIU and others, for a full investigation. Then we have these people making allegations, Rowley included, about trafficking by a UNC MP. Up to today, weeks later, not one iota of evidence against any UNC MP. And you know why? Because there is none. There is none. Well, the police are investigating. Let's hope, according to Rodney, it's not what, 2059 or 2099, 10 years later, that investigation is completed. So there must be an investigation into funding of that Balishi house. But, as I say, the venom that this man spews on his platform, that's his fallback position, you know. When you have nothing to contribute, when you cannot hold your own in a debate, what do? Resort to name calling. That's what it is. So you can't beat, you can't win, you have no plan, no policy, you have nothing of substance for the country, so what do? Call everybody bad name. You know, I wonder when they have those meetings, if it were not for the UNC, they will have nothing to talk about. Think of it, ours, and everybody calling opposition, UNC, Kamla, opposition leader, Wade Mark, Rodney Charles, Nakid, Ada Roberts, Jillian John. That's the whole meeting. You know, last week, Monday, on this UNC platform, I said, the man likes to call my name even though he don't like me. Well, he did it again. I mean, if you read through that speech, and I tell you, I don't really listen. I get a little transcript from my team. They prepare it. When you look at it, and those of you who have the gumption to sit and listen to that garbage, you will see. UNC is number 1, number 2, number 3, 5, 6, 10, and there's nothing left there. Whole speech, true or not true? Whole speech is about the UNC, man. It was like a rally from 2015, because it's the same issues the same lies over and over and over again. So his fallback, call people bad name. I think he's tone deaf. You know, there's a saying, he's not reading the room. What does that mean? He doesn't understand that they want him gone. People just want him gone. Go, go, go. Everywhere you go in this country, that is the call and the cry. And let us get back, let's get him out legally, let's get him out of our country. But I want to tell you, the UNC and I, we have a positive vision for Trinidad and Tobago. I shared with you what I felt would be part of our vision earlier in a very broad, holistic way. But there's some other things that we can do specifically, I can mention. And this is something I have been talking about for, every time I speak, I talk about it. Education is the finest economic policy. Not any complex mathematics. Education is the best economic policy for a modern nation. Our future lies in the marriage of education and technology, no doubt about it. The knowledge race is on. It has begun. And we will never compete using a low-wage, sweatshop-based economy. Cannot do it. Cannot build a modern nation. That is why I have to repeat, and something I'm very proud that our government did when we were there was the laptop program. It was one of the most innovative, visionary programs that was ever introduced in Trinidad and Tobago. We know that our human resources are our most valuable resource. We will improve and modernize education and training, and we will succeed. If you ignore education, everything else falls down. Everything else falls. That is all there is to it. The rapid rate of technological advance. You know, I talked about this at the Women's Day function recently and other places, and I saw a firm sent me something to a link that I could join up to see the technology. I mentioned about lawyers on AI, artificial intelligence. They are sending this to me. They know I'm a lawyer. They have their license on, out of the United Kingdom, for me to check out the first artificial intelligence council, lawyer. So they're introducing this now. Jayanti, sorry, Gail. I said the lawyers might have to look for another job. But then it will still be the same. Yes, Brian, all right, you'll have your job. The lawyers will still be the ones to help write those programs for the content and input. But it's not tremendous, the technological advances. Years ago, I spoke in a meeting up in St. Augustine. And I spoke in the meeting, and after the meeting, I observed something where we went to have refreshments. And at the meeting, I talked about, listen, artificial intelligence now, robots, vacuuming in your house. So where are the jobs? That's what I'm talking about. There's a new cadre of jobs that will have to be created for this new world, this fifth industrial revolution. So after the meeting, we went to the home of an activist, and guess what we saw there? We saw one of these robots, vacuum machine. So it was years ago. We are so far behind. And we cannot depend on Rowley and his government to take us into the fifth industrial revolution. We cannot do it. So what we say, they must go, we must work hard, we must legally get them out of government now. Are you ready? Are you ready? We told you last week, and we must continue the mantra. Our chorus is, we are marching on the road to victory. On the road to victory. Will you join me on that road to victory? But the PNM now, their concept of education is so different. They see education and training as a waste of time. How many schools they have failed to open or complete? Many, many schools throughout the country. Then they've shut down things like NESC, UTT, the MIC buildings, everything for education and training. Wow. It is like something really bad for PNM. They have left unfinished, they have shut down, they refuse to open that Debe campus. Who in their right mind will not want a university campus? Who? PNM. Spite, malice, and ill will, because it was built by a UNC-led government. They will not open that campus. Who in their right mind will not want a hospital for children? Spite, malice, ill will. They will not open the Dr. Bodo, that hospital we built, Hoover Children's Hospital. Why? Spite, malice, and ill will. When you leave school, we must remember, when you leave for the last time, your education does not end. Education is something that is lifelong. This is not about complex economics. The more you learn, the greater you have, your income becomes greater. The more you learn, education always, you remember my words, the key to a better quality of life. It is a passport out of poverty. How many of you sitting here, because of your education, came out of poverty? Came out. Many. I'll put my hand up first. It was because of my education. Thank you, Lord, and thank my great mother. We celebrated International Women's Day, you know. And I saw Marsha Riley put up a post, which I had forgotten. They were my words about my mother and celebrating my mother, because she was the one who fought for me to go to get further education. And I know my paternal relatives, that's on my father's side, they say, why are you sending Kamla away to study? She's a girl, she should get married. But my mother insisted, and I want to thank her and praise her as we praise all the others. And so, education is so vital. As I say, many of us have benefited from education. And that is why we have to push. We have to push for our children and grandchildren. If we leave it up to Rowley and this government, our children will fall in the labas, on the wayside, lost on the wayside. So, friends, I said, education. It was a great push under the UNC-led government, 2010 to 2015. And even before that, under the Pandey government, you all remember? We said not a child to be left behind. I was Minister of Education, not a child to be left behind. And we built all those schools so that everybody who wrote the then common entrance exam got a place in a secondary school. Education. Education is the key, my friends. And I want to make that point again. Yes, we'll attack them. Yes, we'll defend ourselves. But we must also share our ideas, our vision, our plans. And when we tell them to you, believe it. You know why? Because we have a track record. We did it once and we will do it again. We will do it again. So, consider industry and business. Consider the combination of technology, expertise, education to revolutionize Trinidad and Tobago, to make TNT great again, to make TNT, or in your words, the salt of the earth again. We must do it to make sure that it happens. And so it is sad to see what the Rowley PNM has done. Their corruption pervades this blessed land. And their policies and actions are socially and morally and economically corrupt. I want you to examine the ruins of our crumbling society. You will see TNT through the eyes of our children, because that is what they will see if we do not make the change. Are we genuinely proud of our culture today? Drugs, crime, uneducated teenagers bored, and what are they doing? Loitering on the street corners. This government has no plan to provide the necessary education and training that we need for the jobs of the future and of today, for future generations. Where would our children go? Where will they find jobs when they become adults? No one claims that we can eliminate unemployment overnight, but still I tell you, no civilized country can endure these levels of long-term joblessness, unemployment, with the misery and the social breakdown that we see under the UNC-led government. JJ, you remember? We created about 60,000 new jobs. New jobs. And good paying jobs, yes. Sustainable jobs. What have they done? When you look at the numbers now, the numbers of persons employed through the 7 years has been continuously falling and will continue to fall. So I tell you, we must use the public patrimony. This government doesn't have that sense. Use the public patrimony from our hydrocarbon sector, from our manufacturing sector, our agricultural sector, to embrace the digital age, to retool and retrain our citizens. It is an opportunity we may never ever have again. This opportunity comes with great responsibility. So we do not plant those seeds today. Crime and poverty will continue to skyrocket under the Rowley PNM. I know I'm serious with you tonight, but we really have to put our brains on the track on this road to victory, to visualize, to visualize, and to know what are the things we can do to make TNT great again. I share these with you tonight. I share some of this. We have plans as well to deal with crime, yes? Everybody crying, crime. Yeah, well, what are we doing about it? What is the Rowley government doing about it? I see they tell me, Hines, that, useless Minister of National Security, talking about having a special court for human trafficking. Are you for real? Have you locked up anybody for human trafficking? You want to have court? Have you charged anybody? Has anybody been convicted? Who is that? Bullet? Who is Bullet? I don't know who is that person. Rodney could probably tell us. Rodney will tell us. Rodney seems to know something I don't know. You want to put a court for what and what? Why don't you deal with the courts you have now? Why is it you all on the case of the DPP? What you have with that man? I have no reason to doubt his independence in his office. I have none. So far, he has functioned as he should, as an independent DPP. And when he raised concerns, Janti would have spoken some on this, when he raised the concerns about the staffing, you see what they do? You talk about this item. When they get on that platform, they're not talking about that, you know. So Rodney asks about the funding of Valley House. What he come to talk about? About Rodney, whatever, bald head or something, I don't know. And when it is the DPP raised the issue about staff shortage, what he go and do? He not a word about the staff shortages. What he talked about? Some building somewhere. Yes, that they're renting and paying so much money. Well, you really dotish to keep doing that. By the way, who owns that building? Let's find that out too, by the way. I'm sure the DPP in due course will respond to the allegations they are making. I don't know all the facts of the case, but it appears it's a special branch, recommendations for certain security measures, most important. But then I don't know what problem Rowley has with the special branch. I really don't know. So he doesn't want to take their recommendations for the security. MP Munila spoke the other day, and we have spoken on this matter before. You're putting DPP office in a mall, Gulf City Mall, the mall in Tobago. Have you no idea of the kinds of persons who visit that office? Have you any idea of the safety and security, not just of the visitors to the DPP's office, but what the rest of the general public in those places, in public spaces? That's another issue by itself in terms of buildings. So DPP raises a question about staffing. Under my watch, we had approved the cabinet note asking for more staffing in the DPP's office. Then we demitted office, and they took over. No lawyers, still. But you know what I find reprehensible? Is the worst performing Attorney General Limo. When the DPP asked for more staff, this is what Mr. Limo had to say. He said, no staff for the DPP, no lawyers, because they are underperforming. But what you expect if 75% of the department of the DPP's office is, Michelle, what? Understaffed, under-resourced, what do you expect? And look who want to talk about underperformance. Mr. Limo himself. Underperformance, lying in Miami court. Taxpayers have to pay $30 million for those lawyers who get disqualified. Underperform and incompetence in the matter with in the court recently for the $20 million. You remember that? Concerning the prisoner's case and so on. $20 million, why? He missed a file that was not missing. Missing a file that was not missing. And then the recent one with the DIC, Deposit Insurance case. Again, well, look, he wasn't aged to be so busy then. He was a private lawyer. Again, this time, there was no file because he failed to file. And he wants to talk about incompetence in the DPP's department. Man, just shame on you. Get out of here. Get out now. Total incompetence, non-performance. And I'm talking about plans to deal with crime. You know, many people talk about the causes of crime, and there are others who argue about the necessity to punish offenders. Well, both are part of the equation. The truth is, and we know it, that the best 3 crime prevention measures are: 1, a stable family; 2, good education or training; and 3, a stable job. A stable job. That's it. That is why when we, the UNC, led partnership in government, that is why we brought serious crimes to the lowest in over 2 decades. Once we went out of office, what has happened? Crime skyrocketing. So our families are under siege. The training and education I mentioned earlier, they have no interest or care. And the third one, stable jobs. What is that? That is becoming like a rare commodity in this country. A stable job under the PNM. A young country which aspires to be powerful, we cannot be morally neutral about the family. It is a bedrock. The family is the bedrock of all moral societies. And of course, successful societies. Strong families are the foundations of strong communities. You can see this, in any juvenile court. If you see the proceedings there, sometimes you will see, because people there, they learn to respect and care for one another in the family first, and then in the community. So we cannot reconstruct a country if you destroy families. Again, under the PNM, that is what is happening. Every aspect of policy must be examined to see how we can strengthen and keep families together in welfare, in work, in education. There is something very tangible that we can do with respect to housing. I believe, as we all should do, in family values and community values. And we also have other plans for crime reduction. Let me just share, because we've shared it before, but very quickly. One, a restructuring of the Ministry of National Security, because obviously it is not working. It is not working. Restructure national security. To create other ministries, a Ministry of Home Affairs, a Ministry of Defense. And I talked about the Ministry of Justice. They talk about the justice system collapsing, but what did they do? They wiped out the Ministry of Justice that we had created to help deal with the administration of justice. Some plans in the fight against crime. An increase in retirement age for the TT Defense Force to bring them in line with the other arms of the protective services. Imagine these people in the Defense Force, 45, going home. Still able-bodied and strong persons. Increase that retirement age. Have diploma, undergraduate and postgrad programs in policing for recruits for police, together with police apprenticeship programs. That's part of the program we had for the DB campus, for the training of our TTPS. Pre-trial detention and bail reform, individual risk and financial assessments, minimum security detention centers, laws to prevent incarceration for non-violent drug offenders. Anchor bracelets, where are these anchor bracelets? 7 years later, we left the law. Again, that same Faris waste of time would come to Parliament and tell us all the time, come in, come in, come in. We'll come in, and he going. 7 years later, law is in place for the anchor bracelets to help us to monitor offenders and those out on bail and those who go back out after jail time and so on. We should give some state support for children of incarcerated persons. Can you imagine with these children? It's no fault of their own if their parents get locked up in jail. Some fund should be set up, say a fund for children who have lost both one or both parents to crime. Remember, the children are the future. Treat them well. And let them lead the way. That is what we have to do. But it's not happening. And as I said, reintroduce the Ministry of Justice. So we have many plans to deal with crime. What has the PNM presented? They use their public meetings to insult and to lie, and they're nothing positive. I heard the Prime Minister say he's not taking responsibility for school violence. Well, then whom? Yes, families must take responsibility too. I agree with that. But he says the government has no responsibility. Of course you have. If it is, it's not happening. If the families are lacking, this is where I say support the families to support the children. You will bring that down too, but no, you don't care about that. The government will take no responsibility. I told you in days of old, it was the gunmen, the drug barons, the mafia, the lords and ladies with their great estates and castles. They took care of safety and security, but we can't have that anymore. We are a democratic state. Again, you are failing in your core duty. So, other plans, nothing coming from their platform. Interfering with the DPP, Gaspard, I spoke of that already. So, let me remind you of some of their lies. Because all night last Thursday is only about who lied and didn't lie. He has shown himself, Rowley has shown himself to be a pathological liar. That is, even when he was in opposition, he was lying. He has continued to do so. I want to show you that he is always a stranger to the truth. Can you please put up the video, please?
Government is not closing down Petrotrin. And in case you were just opening your fridge and you didn't hear that when you closed the door, let me repeat it. The government of Trinidad and Tobago is not closing down Petrotrin.
I would think that there's been very clear that all the employees of Petrotrin will exit the company. All. So do we get that clear so that nobody has to call me about 10 o'clock in the night to find me? How many of us going again? How many of them going again?
And of course, as I speak to you now, when we came into government, we met the highway to Point 14 stopped.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Riley dismisses talk that the government is being spiteful by stopping work on the controversial Durban to Point 14 highway project. The Prime Minister spoke to the media at the VIP lounge Piarco before his departure to the United States, the United Kingdom and Ghana on a 12-day business trip.
The Point 14 to the Golconda to Point 14 or Gateway to Point 14 highway, that project is virtually stopped. Well, Prime Minister, I can tell you now, without fear of contradiction, I had no idea who my witnesses were. I left it all up to my lawyer, the one and only, the hard-working Faris Alwani.
Did the opposition leader know that he was a material witness in the matter?
Well, of course, Dr. Rowley would have known that David West was a witness in the matter.
I had no idea who my witnesses were.
Well, of course, Dr. Rowley would have known that David West was a witness in the matter.
Understand something, people. Lying will ruin your life. Lying will ruin your goddamn life.
So I shook.
The first one, as being pointed up here, will know very well when Rowley stood publicly and told the country the government is not closing down Petrotrin. The rest, you hear lie? Yes, that is lie. The second one is about the highway. Well, Dr. Bodie will know about that well, runs through your constituency, some of it. And the third one is whether Rowley knew that David West was a witness in his, Dr. Rowley's, one of the cases. And Rowley said, no, I didn't know. I left it up to my lawyer, man, bright boy, Faris Alwari. And Faris then comes and says, but of course the Prime Minister, of course the Prime Minister knew. So whom do we believe? I say believe none of them, by the way. They all lie. They all lie. So a government of lies. They lied about Emailgate. Tried to defend it on Thursday night. Don't know what he was really saying. Listen, Mr. Rowley, they were fake emails from the beginning to the end. Fake emails. And now you have a big expose by international journalists that some big businessman here, on your behalf or the PNM's behalf, paid people to spread this disinformation and create all this bacchanal. So again, in fact, it was Stephen Williams, former Commissioner of Police. He said they had a long, drawn-out investigation and nothing of substance came of it. The Emailgate. Everywhere lied about Emailgate and still lying. That's why I tell you it sounded like a rerun of a 2015 rally when they used that Emailgate to destabilize my government. In that 2015 campaign, they played on that Emailgate. They lied about the UNC, emptied the treasury. What a lie. Nicholas, you know, that is lie too. Nicholas, how much money we left there in foreign reserves? How much money we left there in the treasury? They say we emptied the treasury. Lie, you hear lie? Another lie. He lied about the withdrawal of the Police Service Commission merit list. You remember that? You hear lie? More lie. They lied about the cost of the Tobago mansion. Tobago mansion for Rowley, he lied about the cost of that. They lied about $5 billion spent on COVID. People still asking where $5 billion gone. People did not get the relief. So many suffered. They lied about putting in place public procurement legislation. We left it on the books. 7 years later, they are nowhere nearer to implementing. I think one of you spoke, was a giant, one of you, that they pass in law, and Rodney also mentioned it. They pass in law, but they don't know how to implement the law. Laws in place, you can't implement, so you lie about implementing the public procurement, but you're buying boat and plane from all over the world without that legislation. They lied about the true state of the economy. They lied about, well, I said it before, the Petroton closure. They lied about the sale of the refinery to OWTU. On the eve of election, yeah, man, we're ready to sign on the dotted line. Election come and gone. No OWTU refinery, there is scrap iron. Lied in the Miami court. They lied about the Houston negotiations. Again, you have a double speak. Rowley saying he was the best salesman negotiating gas price. Trinidad and Tobago's best salesman. And then when trouble started to show that whatever price it was still the disadvantage of Trinidad and Tobago. Turn around, double speak from the next side of his mouth. Stuart Young say, no, it wasn't Rowley. It was the technocrats who were present. Lied again about that gas price issue. Lied about flood relief compensation. Lied about Del C. In the midst of the lockdown, lied about Del C. Rodney told you how that works. The man said he didn't know who came to his office to see him. Nobody could just walk in a Prime Minister's office. Rodney explained it. You don't walk in there, you're vetted, the list is given in long before. He didn't know who was coming. He didn't know Del C was coming. He didn't know the chief of Petrobras, the Venezuelan oil company, PDVSA, that he was one of the people. So this man holding with people, meeting with people he don't know. And we don't believe it as Rodney explained that he don't know who was the man in the photograph Rodney sent him. You don't know, he just get vexed with Rodney. You want to beat up poor Rodney. They lied about the Porsche transfer last week. Arnold told you it's 2 Porsches were transferred in that year. And so smart and slick of tongue that Rowie is, that he will tell PCY this number and PCY. Fast, true, lies, more lies. They lied about property tax. They lied about children, high-powered guns. A man denied his own children, toting high-powered guns. If they deny their own children, who next? They lied about property tax, lied about the fuel prices, lied about the Piarco corruption matters, lied about, well, somebody tell me I shouldn't say this one, but he lied how he fall long and thing. We'll find out, the special branch will one day let us know what happened. One day. He lied about Atlantic energy losses. And of course, his latest lie is this trafficking under real pressure, so he pelted across the floor in the parliament up to now. Rowley, if you name man, name the MP you are saying is on the UNC bench involved in trafficking. Name him, be man. And not in parliament, come outside the parliament. Because on the pavement, come on him, bring it on the pavement, bring it out. We want, if you name man, tell the truth. If you can't tell the truth, just get out, go. And stop telling citizens you want to tell people. We tell people here now, make do with what you have. Wow, again, he wants respect but has no respect for anyone or himself. Now he's saying make do. Are you making do with what you have, Mr. Rowley? You took $3 million to buy paintings for your daughter. You all remember that? You took $50 million taxpayers' dollars to build a mansion in Tobago. And now you want to tell people, make do with what you have? Well, you certainly make and do with what everybody else have, all the taxpayers' dollars. So tell the country the truth. Your PNM businessman friend with deep pockets, who is he who paid the Israeli hackers to come up with disinformation and propagate email aid? Tell us about the pedophile ring in the PNM. Tell us about the corrupt drug money funding Balaji House. Tell us about PNM aiding gangs and the drug mafia. Tell us why the PNM disabled the damning vessels and helicopters. Is it because your drug mafia friends could bring in drugs more easily? Tell us why you shut down the scanners at the ports, again to allow for trafficking in guns or in drugs and so on. Tell us if the man with the $2 million US imply board is suspected of drug money helping in Balaji House. Tell us the truth. Tell us why your government is being viewed as a narco government by in the international community. Tell us. Tell us why you pressured the former commissioner of police to give to one of your friends in Tobago a gun range and a gun dealership license. Tell us why you did that. And now you're playing clean hands about who running guns and gun report and blah, blah, blah. Tell us why you pressured former commissioner of police to give your friend in Tobago gun license and a dealership and a range, what do you call it? A gun range in Tobago. Tell us why Ines Gate sold your daughter a townhouse at a lower price than they paid for it, and even the BIR assessed it at a higher figure. Tell us the truth about that. Tell us the truth about the U.S. authorities questioning you or any of your ministers. Tell us about the $40 million you paid WPC Kate to hunt down Munilal and Anil. Let me tell you something about that. Tell us why you agreed and gave to the former commissioner of police $40 million, but you stipulated that it was only to be spent to persecute and prosecute UNC persons. I told you some of this last week. That is their playbook. Yeah, that is their playbook. Hunt down UNC people, label all of them with the same plaster. So tell us about fuel bunkering. Which one of your friends you gave that fuel bunkering contract to? Tell us about it. Tell us about your lying AG hush money in the DIC case. Tell us about the money the PNM THA laundered through your PNM contractors to fund your elections campaign in Tobago. Tell us. And I'm asking you to tell us, because we have the answers. We have the answers, I remember as a good lawyer, my teachers always told me, hey, find the answers. No one wants the refinery. Why? Because of the huge mortgage on that refinery. Although somebody told me recently, was it UMPD? There were some persons circling around the refinery recently. Don't know if you're trying to sell the scrap iron at that refinery. They offered it to Ghana. Ghana said, no way. No part of that scrap iron. That whether there are severe shortages of basic medications. That one, I think John Public knows the answer, yes. And tell us why. Tell us, whilst people were lining up in the rain all over this country to get COVID vaccines, tell us whether family members of the COVID propaganda team were making millions off testing and vaccines in Point Lisa. Tell us whether a member of that COVID propaganda team, family members of a member of that team, they were making millions with the vaccines and with testing. The truth will come out. It's already coming out. Tell us that while your government was dragging people to Cora for COVID, everybody had to go Cora, dump you in Cora. When things got so bad, they dumped them in the great hospital in Cuba. They dumped them in the great David campus right down here. Took a pandemic for them to use those buildings. Tell us that while you were dragging ordinary people to Cora for treatment, for COVID, the boss of a big energy company was allowed to get personal home care for COVID by a relative of the COVID propaganda team. And that the government knew what was going on. I repeat again our call, we have made it repeatedly, and we will do it. We will have the chance for a full inquiry into the COVID mismanagement in Trinidad and Tobago. Full inquiry. So their untruths, deceit, misleading leadership has plunged us into the lowest we have ever been in this country. We are in deep crisis. We have little hope for the future under Rowley and this PNM. They will continue to lie, they will continue to squander our resources, and they will continue to make life harder for every one of you. And so, the PNM doesn't care. They only want to enrich themselves, and of course he said his job was to make the rich richer, to make the rich richer. You all remember that. Don't forget these things. That's what he saw his job, to make the rich richer. They don't care about you, as long as they hold on to power. Today I want to promise you, to the entire country, especially those who have practically given up hope of change under politics, I promise you that the party I lead will carry out the agenda outlined in our economic transformation plan in government. That's my word on it. We deliver on what we promise. We never promise something we cannot give. We have the track record to prove it. I ask you, in the face of the crisis that we are in, to remain strong and courageous. The PNM will tell you it is impossible. They will lie about you. They will lie about me, and they lie about themselves as well. You saw the Faris and Rowley interchange there about the witness. And you know, I want to tell you, do not fear rob you of hope and courage. I always tell you, do not fear. The UNC and Kamla is here. The elections will not be a contest for political power. The next elections will be a war for the soul of our nation. And I urge you, my party, I urge you, citizens of TNT, to be strong and courageous. I know you love our country. We love our country too. And I want to make this pledge to all of you. I will do everything I can to get the PNM legally out of government. Everything. Every nerve in my body, with every beat of my heart, with all the strength that I have. Together we will work to get them out of government legally. Discipline, courage, drive, honesty are required to achieve triumph. And so, my friends, once again, we remain united and remain loyal, and we work together. Once we do that, we can and will make a government, once more, a true government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is what a democracy is about. This and much more, I promise you. God bless you, and I thank you very much.